Hello, Tiki Gray here. And this video is gonna be, it's not like some super particular in-depth guide into a certain build, but it's still a guide, but it's an overview on every single type of tier 2 Death Blob deck. Now here's the tier 2 Death Blob. It is all 4 tier 2 in Ezreal. Now this is a deck that's unpopular for who knows how long, and it's a very all-around deck, and it can pretty much work on most maps. Like if there's a deck, like lots of patches have had one deck that can work pretty much every game, just be decent, and that would be the tier 2 Death Blob deck. And it's a very pretty strong late game. Like obviously this is still probably gonna lose against like Wolf multi tier 3 or like 10 Owls. That has a very strong late game, still strong mid game. It's just a very strong all around deck. And it works a lot around tempo, macro, and timings, like knowing when to attack with what units you have. Like they just put the board down, so I attack now with this amount of units. About having the right ratio of falcons, skunks, cams, snakes. And you know, okay, so lizard 4 tier 2 is not a thing because lizards do not synergize with these units like Skrill does, because lizards are just gonna die in a fight right away, and your army's just gonna be inferior. Like if against a Skrill tier 2 army. Because the lizards die, and yeah, because lizards they just run to the front, they die to skunks, cam, boar, whatever. Skrills stay in this back line, and they do a ton of damage. And even if the opponent has skunks, like you have your own cam, so the cams are gonna either kill the skunks or at least distract the skunk gas for a while, like a couple seconds or 2 seconds or something. But the point is, like the skrills do a ton of damage in that time still. Now, when I say all the tier 2 Death Blob decks, I'm talking about what the 6 slot is. Since the 6 slot here is a flex slot, you can put whatever you want in it. So I'm going to talk about this deck with Lizard, Toad, Pigeon, Divine for every single unit. I have not played all these decks. I myself do not play with 4 tier 2 often. So this isn't, again, I'm not going to spend 10 minutes on every single possible combination, so I'm just going to be less than a minute. But, so let's get started. Let's talk about Squizard in this deck. Now, right now in this patch, it's really about Skrill Lizard decks and Skrill Toad decks. Those are two most popular. It's debatable which one is better. It basically depends on the map. If you can leverage the Lizard flanking and like just flank around and do whatnot on a map of lizards, that's good. But if it's like a much more choke pointy map or a map where you can't really leverage the Lizard flanking, then the Toads just win, because Toads skill well into the late game. They counter cams. They counter this ground tier 2 in general, even skunks. Like once you get 9 of them, or 12, which is the magic number late game. If most people stay on 6, which isn't enough, and the armies get bigger, just go get 9 or 12, walk them into the enemy army, just blow up all the skunks, all the tier 1, all the cams, blow up everything. Okay, so Lizard. So you put Lizard in your deck because you want to be able to use the Lizard utility primarily. It's not something to add to your army composition. So like you bring Lizards, so you can flank around the map with them, early, mid, maybe late. You can do the Squizard strat, so Skrill Lizard, so you don't tech up. You just go super heavy eco, since Squizard is very cost effective in open terrain. Squizard will beat 2 skunks, Skrills in open terrain. Squizard can even beat 4 skunks, although it's a bit closer and could go the wrong way, show micro right. But the point is, when an enemy goes tech, you just build farm. Since this tier 1's build faster, you always be on the same army. Now, you would bring Toads. It's a pretty common choice. Toads are just extremely effective this patch since they have road speed. AKA they move 30% faster than everything else that doesn't have Swift. And they don't get slowed down by water, not that that usually matters. The Toads skill really well against cams. I guess kill mass cams. Mass Toads kill mass cams. Lizards, again, they're just good against ground units in general now. They're good against forward warrens, they're just really strong. Because this isn't like for sure, but I kind of been thinking about it. I think a lot of decks, a lot of the more standard decks don't revolve around structures. Oh, we could probably put every deck into this category, but it's how does it deal with cams? Because like cams are so important in the bigger fights because they just do so much damage and tank so much. Like early, they can be kited by skunk, snake, or snake, but you can't kite with big armies. It's just not effective. Everything, all your units just end up getting bursted down by falcons and whatnot. So Toads, Like if you don't run cam, you want toads or boar usually. Otherwise your army's just not gonna be open terrain. So yeah, take toads if you don't like lizards, or you just want a solid, very strong composition. Since like if the enemy has the same combination, but they don't have toads, like your toads just blow up water chameleons and you just win the fight. Now pigeons. Pigeons are not a good choice. Something you don't see super often. I do like pigeons in my mind, or in my opinion, or mainly if you're having trouble with owls, you want to go pigeon. Or even if you're having trouble with wire, multi-tier 3, like just go pigeon so the wire doesn't slow you down. And you keep out pigeons against owls, so the pigeons keep your units alive, and so they don't get worn down by the opponent's mice. Yeah, take pigeons if you want to kill owls better. Even without pigeons, this deck can still do really good against owls, but you have to know where you're positioning and avoid taking damage from owls and know when to push, so the owl player doesn't build up too much. But pigeons make all that easy. Now, I'd also want to point out that Arlu, one of the best players in the game, he likes to run Skrill, Toad, and yeah, this Toad tier 2 Death Blob. Last patch, he would run this almost all the time. It was Skrill, Mole, tier 2, or this Mole tier 2 Death Blob, I should say. His moles were super strong last patch with their instant spawning. It was like, you could do really good timing attacks, and you could just build them and defend. Just, like, go greedy and spam moles full defense just to get attacked. This patch, they lose health when spawning, so they're not. The Mole Warren loses health when spawning, and it doesn't regenerate health, so that's not very good. So you don't really see this deck anymore, but you take it this patch if you want to be cheesy with the moles. Like people might not expect them, so you can stop a fast expand, or maybe snipe a Warren, or even snipe a pig if you're not scouting for moles around the middle at the beginning of the game. So kind of cheesy. It's just surprise here. Ferrets. Okay, so ferrets aren't good. I don't know if I've ever seen. I don't know if I've ever seen this deck actually. But you take ferrets in this deck, they're not reliable to use. That's the problem, because like an enemy army without ferrets can disengage your army and kill it. So you'd only ever use the ferrets in this deck if you have really nice terrain, like there's the middle there, then you have like some water choke point or something. So if they attack over like the water, or attack through water, or attack through a choke point, you just stop them. So it's not an issue that you have ferrets in a weaker army, because they'd have to go through terrible terrain. Or you could use it like you're ahead and they can't engage your army, so you just bring out the ferrets. But why not just bring more tier 2 in the game? But you could try ferrets. It'd also be good since people don't expect ferrets usually. If you're a person who doesn't run them, like if you're me, people are probably going to be expecting ferrets. But otherwise, like if you know someone's taking MG a lot, you can do this deck. The ferrets will catch them off guard probably, and then for MGs die. So okay, boar. So you don't really see this kind of deck. Like you see tier 2 boar, but a lot of times you see pigeon thrown in there without one of tier 2s, but it's fine if you're doing boar tier 2 death block. This is a really solid composition. The boar just adds a ton of health and a ton of damage. Like the AoE does lots of damage. Like it doesn't kill tier 2, but it still damages tier 2 and it kills tier 1. And it also, destroys pigs and warrens too. And Melvin Fro doesn't take boar a lot anymore. Recently he's been running badger instead, or just tier 2. Although he does run pigeons most of the time. But he liked to just defend until boar and do like some tier 2 boar push, and it was really good. Although I want to point out, in his games against Arlu in the second championship tournament, he stopped taking boar, so it was just tier 2 death blob versus tier 2 death blob. Although you can still take boar, the main thing is it might be not as cost effective like in open terrain, because if the opponent has more falcons and they kill all your falcons and ignore the boar, so the boar tanking doesn't happen, like. And they kill the rest of their army with their falcons. They only have the boar left, and the falcons just kill the boar. So with the boar, this is the general boar advice, really. But you always want to be inside the enemy base, because you want the AoB to be destroying warrens and pigs too, and you want the boar bomb to hit pigs and warrens too. So you just get hundreds of extra damage on their infrastructure. Here's a deck that I know I've never seen used. No, I have never used, because if you're running Badger has super low HP for its cost, and so you want pigeons with Badger, so you can heal it for like, otherwise like 5 stink tags will kill it. Maybe not 5. Yeah, I think 6 or 7 stink tags probably kill a pigeonless Badger, I'm not sure. 6 or 7, almost for sure. But, I mean, you could try this deck if you wanted, since a part of the reason Badger is weak is because there's no HP with the Badger, but then when you add 9 pigeons, pigeons have 3 health. So 180 food. So with 360 food, you have about 100 HP with 360 food between the Badger and the pigeons. 360 food of Skrills is... Wait, let me do this map quick. Oh, it's like almost 160. Or, so it's like 70% more food. Like, so the Badger army, it just gets run over right away since there's no HP in the army. And then it's just a Badger. Like, but you could try running this deck without Pigeon. Maybe you can make it work. Because if you don't waste all your money on, well, maybe not waste, but if you don't spend all your money on Pigeons, you can spend on other units, so losing a Badger doesn't hurt as much. You take Owl. It's pretty much just a long game option, or maybe like some crazy one-based option. I mean, Owls are just like really good in low eco situations and a lot of other situations. And you'll just win the long game eventually too, usually, with Owl. Wolf tier 2 is not a thing anymore. I don't know precisely why it died. Like, this isn't, like, Wolf feels good in theory, but it's not that good in practice. It's only good at better tier 3. But Wolf buff cams can do a ton of work, as can Wolf buff snakes. And you always want to be buffing cams. Almost always want to be buffing cams with Wolf. Like, the cams just... They spend less time finding tiles since they move faster, and they do like 16 damage a second or something. It's ridiculous. Like, they have so much DPS. Snakes are also just have a lot of DPS. It's just micro the tags correctly. But otherwise, we'll see. Fox, really good against other tier 2 decks. The problem is it gets hard countered by stuff like Owl or Sniper Balloon. But if the opponent doesn't have something like that, you can just pick away at your army. And if you're like fighting another army, say if your skunks kill all their tier 1, then they only have tier 2 left, and then the Fox is charged for that. So as far as tier 3 go, Boar is good. Owl is good. Fox is good if you know who you're fighting and you don't think you're gonna be running a counter like Owl or Sniper Bird. So that Fox is really a toss-up on if you know the person you're fighting. If you're a person who runs out every game, don't take Fox. Wolf is bad, but workable. Badger is probably also really bad, but I don't know, maybe there's something to it. Okay, so you would take Wire. Basically, this does good defense. Like, you basically just take Wire to eco up a whole lot faster with this deck. So you'd have like say Skunk, 6 skills, and some Wire, and you just go up, a ton of farms on your second mill or something. Like, you just use it because it's way too difficult for the enemy to cost effectively attack and shit. Like, Skunk Wire is gonna stop anything like the first 6 minutes. So you can just go eco safely. Mines are pretty much an inferior version of Fire here, in my opinion, for defense. Mines, well, if you're being defensive, Wire's just better 99% of the time, since you can reveal mines. Mines cost 20 food, which is actually a ton if you start building a lot of mines. Like, your mines is 1 pig, so the enemy gets the eco advantage, honestly. If you put down too many mines, since they can put down farms. And I think I already said they can be commander revealed. And they can be targeted and destroyed, which can't happen to Wire. Mines are really... The only time I really like mines is with aggressive Squizzard plays. Or... I guess just aggressive plays in general, and you use it to augment. Like, it's your sieging enemy base, that's the only time I like mines. MG is pretty similar to Wire here. You can use it defensively, not early though like Wire. But it depends. MGs are expensive, but you can also use it to try to do contains or hold 4 positions. Just all around have some utility. Although if you're being purely defensive with this deck, Wire is still it's still generally going to be better. Sniper balloon, just nice aerial utility. It's also really, really good against other tier 2 decks, since balloons are really good in bigger armies against other tier 2 decks, since if the opponent has 2 falcons, it's 120 food for the Warren, and 120 food for 2 falcons, and you can get 2 sniper balloons which will one-shot the falcons. They also one-shot snakes. Because like you just have a very cost-effective defense, unless the opponent has like 5 hours or something, in which case you don't want sniper balloons. Otherwise, sniper balloons is just really, really good against tier 2. Artillery. You can't really use artillery. Artillery is not a defensive unit. The only time it's a defensive unit is if you're going multi-tier 3 or like a bunch of owls or something. That's the only time it's ever good defensively. Otherwise, it's a completely aggressive unit. So you would just basically take the artillery as another aggressive option. Like you win the fight, so you go take a forward mill and then put down artillery. You can't use it for eco because, I mean, it's 180 food. Like, that's 180 food you're not spending on arms. But it's not really strong enough that you can sacrifice too much army. Otherwise, like, some falcons will just kill everything. Or, no, like, the artillery seems really strong at times, but other times it's really, it just gets run over. It doesn't make as much of a difference as you would think it would. So this is basically just like you want to fight or you have good terrain, and you put down artillery in some sort of aggressive position. Anyway, that is the end of this video.